times when I had to bob my head in a just to approximate something to press the buttons on.
I am about to train black.
It doesn't tell you how to do, and if you don't get through, you
I'm
have to do the whole shebang again. What the hell? There is
Fall
no
for
reason in the
me.
pre-rendered cutscenes why you fail a section versus succeeding. If you fail, they'll just arbitrarily be another guard you didn't see, or you'll do the same animation, then arbitrarily get hit by a laser. It's part of the bad game design, especially in the casino stage. This is the prime reason why that level is the prime reason why that level is the worst level in the game. You're playing a rhythm section without rhythm. You have a gadget
Hey, how you
section
doing,
that's all
everyone?
kicked off with the
I'm playing the normal elevator remastered.
game design. Sometimes they have inputs between beats which completely throws me off, and worst of all, there's input lag and no way to fix it to my knowledge. And in some cases, like the ballroom, the pre-baked animations for both failing and succeeding are beyond atrocious. It's an absolute mess. How do you fuck up rhythm? That's like the easiest thing in the universe to do.
I look like a tuba stomach. It looks like I have a tuba stomach. I can't even see my head.
To say this. The rhythm sections in Slide 4 were better. Now, don't misconstrue my devil's advocacy for positivity. They were still horrible, awful, embarrassing wastes of time that were forced in for the sake of fan service, but at the very least, the rhythm worked. They actually played how they were supposed to play, but in Secret Agent Clank,
I gotta go in the middle.
defy anything that a rhythm section is supposed to be. It's awful, pointless, and just soul-suckingly boring when I'd rather just be playing the game. And every single one of these are just utterly dreadful from start to finish. There aren't enough variations of the phrase, fuck this game mode in the English language to express that. Fuck this game mode with a rusty poker. It sucks in every way this type of section can suck. We're somehow not done though. I actually completely forgot about this. There's a 3D rail shooter section as Giant Clank literally out of nowhere right before the final level, and it's just... look at it.
Does this look like
Just
boring?
look at it. It bears repeating that this game at its best is boring as hell, but this really says it all, doesn't it? There's nothing fun about this mode. You just plod through space and shoot. There's only one level of this, but oh my god, it just goes on forever. Culminating with a boss fight. A boss fight that's patterns are easy to identify, but because you can't shoot anywhere but straight ahead, shooting these people will put you in the line of fire, so I had to shoot, back away, for 10 minutes. Need I say more about the tedium this mode put me through? 10 minutes just on the boss. This mode is terrible, end of story. So after all of that, after
I'm facing my fears because I usually just chicken out and stay.
Arena combat, rhythmless rhythm, terrible Clank sections, and more, you finally make it to the final boss, and it's... alright. You heard me, this boss is fairly enjoyable. Aside from the pointless, unforgiving quick-time events, still being shackled to the awful weapons, and the most bullshit ranged attack in history. Come on, how was I supposed to dodge that? This fight had multiple stages, including multiple animatronics, with more being added as the fight went on, and a competent but not unfair difficulty once you have the patterns down. Take that, auto-destruct. It's not a half-bad boss fight. I actually enjoyed this fight. It was satisfying to complete. If not for the weapons, this would be an upper-tier Ratchet boss.
Goddamn ugly.
Apology for the rest of the game. Plus, there's added catharsis of being able to shoot all the names involved with this shit show. Yeah, take that, bitches. But then they have normal credits anyway. Yawn. Wait, this game had a quality assurance department? Quality assurance, my ass. That said, this game could have ended with the PS2 dispensing $500,000 worth of gold doubloons, and it still wouldn't have saved the game. It just makes me wonder why the rest of the game couldn't be like this. And when I say like this, I mean at least slightly different. Finally, mercifully, that's it for the gameplay. It's a mess. There's not one thing I can look at and call good. It's at best soul-suckingly boring, and at worst, it's a borderline unplayable pile of AIDS. It's like an alternate version of Ratchet and Clank where they wanted to see what would happen if they made the gameplay as terrible as they could get away with. No matter which way you spin it, it's just not fun to play at all. So Clank sections, a fucking mess. Ratchet sections, pointless and shallow. Warp sections, boring and overused. Gadgetbot sections, dull as a butter knife. Vertical shooter sections, incredibly shallow and incredibly uninteresting. The rhythm sections, apocalyptically awful. And the giant Clank sections, which are the most explosively
Please remain calm and stay away from the back wall. The elevator will be back in service shortly.
Wait, stay away from the back wall? What's in the back wall? Okay, now I'm creeped. Hey, why are you dancing? What is it? Oh no, this is something creep. Link. Think gonna show him back.
Monotonous things in the history of the universe.
I'm kind of.
Would you believe?
What is this?
Would you believe that comparatively, the gameplay is a 10-ton gold nugget when compared to this game's story? Before we get into this, it's worth mentioning that this game is a direct sequel to Size Matters. Many of you may not know that, as I didn't, until I caught a small detail that confirmed this while looking through the cutscenes. Apparently, this game's plot was kicked off during the ceremony in celebration of Ratchet & Clank beating Auto-Destruct. It wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it establishes this precedent that Secret Agent Clank has a canonical spot that it's trying to fit into, which means that it's attempting to say that this game exists in the Ratchet & Clank canon without question, which is going to become a big issue as the story explanation goes on. So this game opens up with the titular Secret Agent Clank investigating a break into a museum. It starts in medias res with the break-in already concluding and the perpetrator being caught, which shockingly ends up being Ratchet himself. But not Clank's assistant Ratchet, real-world hero Ratchet that saved the galaxy multiple times. There are 100 nitpicks and 100 major problems with the narrative surrounding Secret Agent Clank, but this one moment demonstrates the biggest problem with this game right off the bat, that every problem builds off of from that point forward. Secret Agent Clank is an in-universe fictional character as well established in this one cutscene in Up Your Arsenal.
I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Secret Agent Clank is merely a fictional character I play on the holovision.
However, given what we know based on the cutscenes and what's shown based on his interactions with characters later, as well as numerous references to past adventures, including the returns of people like Slim Cognito, the Thugs for Less guy, Clunk, Dr. Nefarious briefly, and more, that this isn't the Secret Agent Clank version of Ratchet. You know, the schlubby assistant character he portrayed in the in-universe TV show that mysteriously gets traded for a monkey halfway through the movie. This is Ratchet. They're constantly making references to things that Ratchet's done in past games. So let me get this straight. Ratchet is Ratchet Classic, as in the galaxy-trekking hero, but
Richter was certain he was losing his mind. The only thought that existed was the burning nova of pain in his center. His health bar was flashing and he only had seconds of life left. I never thought that anyone ever would read my books. When I'm writing these characters that I've grown and that I've known and breathed life into, they have their own.
I wake up in the morning and I say, what a day. And I say, what a morning. It's all okay.
I still felt like I needed something.
Everything is awesome. Everything's cool. Wait up. Give me a few seconds.
Just go on Amazon.
Possible mix of two separate realities within the universe that don't really gel in any way, and in fact actively contradict each other and established canon. A weird mixture of in-universe reality and fiction. This is built on the foundation of one giant continuity error. I can spend 10 hours.
Actually, I'm gonna skip this. I don't really like this. I love this remastered
Before I
version.
played this game, I thought that it was
Some
going to be an
floors were
extended episode
removed,
of the in-universe show, and that's exactly what
but
it
some
should
of
have
them
been.
are
Instead, this
added.
impossible mix
Cool.
of absolute
And they
nonsense.
remastered
In
old
fact, you
floors
know
like
what
that
this
Friday
really
the
should have been?
13th
It should have
one.
been the movie from the end of Up Your Arsenal. That would have given them the opportunity to play around with spy movie tropes and general movie tropes for comedic effect, but instead they attempted to make something that was genuinely canon and ended up making an incomprehensible mess that makes no goddamn motherfucking sense in any way. I've been banging that point home, but only because I can't stress enough how none of this makes any sense, and I don't even think that the creators themselves knew that it didn't. I'm gonna guess that when
I
Hi-Impact
prefer the
Games first made
cartoon
this game, they
package.
probably only saw a screenshot or a few cutscenes of the Secret Agent Clank portions of Up Your Arsenal and thought that would be a great idea, but didn't understand that it was in-universe fiction and just wrote the game as if it were any other Ratchet & Clank game, not understanding why that doesn't work. So that one point, the continuity error to end all continuity errors, kneecaps this game. But that's not to say it's unsalvageable, but this game is kneecapped by its own premise, then the actual story is about 500 rounds from a minigun. So from that opening, the story is that the Eye of Infinity, a precious gem, has been stolen, and Ratchet is the culprit, but somehow even though he gets caught stealing the gem at the scene of the crime, said gem is gone, and nobody thinks this is weird. That's like if I robbed a bank and then got caught, but when I got caught, the money was already gone without explanation. This is something that could easily have been explained away, but no such luck, so we're left with Ratchet doing a crime after the crime already took place, or at least that's how it's presented. You'd think that breaking into a museum and stealing a precious gem, but then just stumbling into a security laser would be enough of a red flag without him not having the gem to begin with. Also, did the museum just not have an alarm on the case itself, or at least guards? Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to contrive this scene of Ratchet not really doing anything and being blamed sight unseen. If he didn't didn't make this speech.
The eye has been taken where no one will ever find it.
He'd be free for all intents and purposes because he could have easily just been in the wrong place at the wrong time as far as the law is concerned. Fleeing the scene is one thing, but not even being at the scene is another. There's so much wrong about this scene that I could go on about it for ages. Anyway, Clank then spends the rest of the game looking for who framed Roger Ratchet because he couldn't believe that Ratchet was behind it. Meanwhile, Ratchet gets carted off to jail and spends the rest of the game surviving in various situations in jail with friends and foes from his past. That's pretty much all you need to know because from there, nothing really happens at all. This is basically a game with straight-line storytelling where there's exactly one goal and nothing else but an endless chase to get there. A MacGuffin hunt, if you will. Clank has to find the Eye of Infinity, which will prove Ratchet's innocence, somehow. And there's no other goal to accomplish, and every time you almost have the Eye in your possession, they contrive a way for it to not be there, and it's so tedious. Very little is actually accomplished in this game. It's just a series of obstacles as opposed to any sort of unfolding narrative. There's one measly non-revelation that Clunk is behind everything. Clunk. A one-off non-character we blew up in Up Your Arsenal, but other than that, this story is a monotonous trek towards the same goal for level after level. What this really means is that there's no progression, so the game's just a flat line for hours on end, and it's so frustrating how many times I feel like there was no reason for them to delay the game, only for them to contrive a way for the Eye of Infinity to just suddenly not be there anymore. I win in some weird card game, and then, oh, I'm sorry, our princess is in another castle. It was a situation where they padded it out so much that I seriously felt like saying,
humongous topic, and my body looks like a foot long.
A straight line plot and not still be good. Sly Cooper and the Devious Raccoonus is a good example of where the story was very straightforward, minus a few twists at the end, but stands up on the quality of its writing, whereas Secret Agent Clank has no story progression and is embarrassingly badly written. It's like 10% progression and 90% padding. Then you compare it to something like Up Your Arsenal, where there's more twists and turns than a tangled wire. That's what I like to see. That said, Secret Agent Clank could have either had a straight line plot or a twisty and tangled plot, but it would fail either way because we've only just started with the story's problems. Oh god, where do I begin? First of all, the in-game continuity is fucked. The game just seems to jump around all over the place, like when in one scene Ratchet is thrown out of his cell, but then in the next scene is right back inside.
Dude, the big wigs.
The space loading screens speak for themselves, and so on. And speaking of Ratchet, when he meets
one big wig looks like he's pregnant.
For the first time, he claims the last time they met was when Ratchet blew up his helicopter. Actually, you were in a giant robot. Did they even research this series before making a game for it, or at least check to make sure everything was correct?
I think one or two more floors.
That said, those continuity issues are just notable nitpicks. What's really a tough pill to swallow is the contrived nature of everything that happens. What I mentioned a minute ago is just the tip of the iceberg. This is one of the most contrived games I've ever played. There's very little about it that doesn't feel forced in some way. Level 2, for example, only takes place because Fu Manchu-bot here left a really obvious clue as to his whereabouts for no reason. Then as soon as the level starts, they subvert your expectations in the most moronic way possible by playing the getting out of the ship animation and making Clank jump into a bowl of water. That's barely an exaggeration. Then later you subdue Fu Manchu-bot and Clank tricks him by saying he'll let him go in exchange for the info he's in search for, and then he doesn't let him go, but then he frees himself. So why didn't he just free himself before? Why did he need to give you the info? Then he tries to use a laser to blow up Clank, then it malfunctions for no reason and destroys the entire city.
It's SpongeBob. I did a show SpongeBob.
What the fuck? What the hell is going on?
Yeah.
There's not one thing that I mentioned that wasn't absolutely contrived. Some of this might be for comedic effect, but why would you sacrifice basic logic or coherence for comedy for any reason? And if it was for comedic effect, why aren't I laughing? Clank gets subdued by jumping into a trap. Did he not see it? How did they know he was going to land there? How did they know he was going to jump out on that exact spot? It goes against any basic logic for the sake of itself. It's so contrived and only happens to make you play as the gadget bot. Woo fucking who. Fuck, there are so many contrived moments in this level that this one went completely over my head. Clank escapes, and for no reason, Number Woo's footprints are on the ground, creating a path to him. Like, can you just assume that Clank knew where he was? Every single thing spelled out for us in the most contrived way. Seriously, there was no reason that his footprints needed or should have been on the ground, unless he was, like, stepping around in ink, but then
so, yeah, I'll see you later. Before I go, I'm gonna oof myself.
Clank gets to and traps Fu Manchu-bot.
Now, I'll see you later, alligator.
Done with that.